Scott Hansen, thanks for joining us on feedbackTV.
It's always a pleasure.
Tell me about Scott Hansen. What's his background?
Well, I was born and raised in rural Queensland. Grew up just outside of Stanthorpe. Had an involvement with the cattle and livestock industries basically my whole life. For the last 15 years, I've been involved in a range of executive roles within the industry, from state farmer organisations, pig councils. I joined Meat and Livestock Australia in 2004 and held a number of roles there, the latest of which was looking after the industry's investments in North America as their regional manager.
What will your priorities be? What's on your agenda?
Yeah, I think especially at the moment, the key focus for Meat and Livestock Australia is getting back to basics, making sure that those core functions that we were established to do, investing producer levies into marketing activities that drive demand for their livestock by driving demand for the products that are derived from that livestock, investing our dollars into research and development that helps provide tools and information and new systems to help their profitability. Those are the real core functions for MLA. And my immediate priority is to ensure that we're delivering excellence in those core functions.
Let's talk about the live export issue in Indonesia. What can we take out of the events that have occurred in the last few months?
I mean, this new game plan that's been in operation for Indonesia since the reopening of the trade is no longer about incremental improvement in animal welfare across the marketplace, but is now about ensuring that Australian animals only go into secure supply chains which meet the standards set out by the Australian government. And importantly, the responsibility for the treatment of those animals through that supply chain will rest with that supply chain. Poor performance by a supply chain will not result in the closure of the trade, but will result in the penalisation of those supply chains. And that gives us a much more secure footing going forward.
Let's put live export in perspective in terms of MLA's total activities.
The livestock exports from Australia are a critical issue for us at the moment, but they are only a small part of our overall program and our overall investments on behalf of the Australian beef and the Australian lamb and sheep producers.
Now let's talk about R&D. What's exciting there in terms of on-farm R&D?
So much of our investment up to date in the area of genetics has been focused in that animal. We're turning our focus to the grass, to the pastures that animal grazes on in a genetic sense, and looking at, well, what can we do with species and cultivars to make them more productive, to make them more tolerant to environmental conditions, to make them better utilisers of the soil's nutrients and the water that's made available to them, and what can we do to make them more digestible and their interaction with that animal as it tries to convert that vegetable protein into meat protein. How do we ensure that we've got as much smart science around that part of the equation as we now have around our animal genetics?
So you're excited about the role ahead?
Meat and Livestock Australia is an incredibly important part of what I see as one of the most important industries in this country. We are an R&D and marketing organisation. We're not a regulatory body. We're not a government agency. What we do is collaborate with an incredibly important industry in an incredibly important role of providing sustainable and nutritious food to the globe, and I couldn't think of a better job to have.
Scott will no doubt be speaking again very soon, but in the meantime, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.